It's Roger once again, Mud Fossil University, and today we're going to be talking about no-toes and giant feet that are seen all over the earth. Now, I've been reporting on this, and you see, Devil's Tower is a giant foot. Now, you say, well, how come there's only one there? Well, usually they get stuck in the mud during the Great Flood. Now, whether they drowned or whether they starved, I can't say. But when this happened, they became stuck in the mud, and the normal reflex is to try to push yourself out of the mud. I mean, it's just the way you're going to react. So one foot will normally be deep in the mud, and one foot will be above. And the one that's deep in the mud is normally unseen. So what happened here is I see this no-toe, and I see this no-toe. And I said, ooh, this is a very unusual situation. There's two of them together above ground. How could this possibly be? Because I have no other ones that are like this ever. This one here is above ground, and that's like very high up, and it's like 400 or 500 feet between here and down. And the same thing over here. Now, but I live right in this area here, and I understand this area. And I have been watching them do the mining here for 30 years. And that is a big toe. I'm just focusing to show you. That's a big toe. And I can almost say that with absolute surety because I have a giant no-toe foot here. A toe. Well, I have feet and I have the toes, but I have a toe here that shows exactly the formation that they hit, which is at the bottom of the toe, which is the white pad. I've been watching it forever, and for the last 5 years or so, I realized this is a no-toe. And I've been watching. All of a sudden, last year, they hit this white spot, and now they're going to move their operation because they've finished the toe. And I think it's 30, 40 years they've been working on it. I know I've been here 30 years. So it's been, and it was there long before I was here, so it could be 50 or it could be 100 years. I don't know. But all they took out of there was that toe. Now, let's look at this big one here. Hold on one second. Let me focus in on it. Hold on. All right, I'm going to tell you a story about Hobomock, who was the giant that lived in Middletown, where I am. Listen to this. Beginning at Long Island Sound, Metacomet Ridge commences as two parallel ridges with related sub-ridges, which I am in the sub-ridge range, outcrops in between. The latter include the high butte-like cliffs of East Rock. Now listen to this carefully. And the isolated peak of Peters Rock. The western ridge line of the Metacomet Ridge begins in New Haven, Connecticut. Okay, so it begins in New Haven, Connecticut, as West Rock Ridge and continues as Sleeping Giant, Mount Sanford, Peck Mountain, and Prospect Ridge for a distance of 16 miles before diminishing, now listen to this, before diminishing into a series of low-profile outcrops just short of Southington. And that's where the feet are. West of Hanging Hills in Meriden. The Hanging Hills are the feet. Sleeping Giant. And that's what the Indians said. And the guy's name was Hobomock. And he got mad at him and stamped in the Connecticut River and pushed the river out of its boundaries. And they say the thing is there, and they can't explain how it happened other than this is a story that happened. And it did. It pushed it. It's the exact same size as his foot. It's unbelievable. All right, now that's the castle up there on the tip of the guy's toe. And that is, they call it a faulted and tilted layer of trap rock. Hanging Hills of Meriden. Well, I'm just outside of that, east of that. And there's another no-toe over there. All right, this is right in the same area. This is in Plainville, which anybody that knows mud fossils, you got the red, you got these are the different colors of mud fossil flesh. And there it is, and it's a gigantic creature. And again, not part of the the Appalachian Mountains, which is the dragon and the things that I was discussing with Greg. So this is a totally separate formation. And Yale has all kinds of different stories about this area, and they call it a doorway to the center of the earth, and they think it's a rift zone, which was originally attached to Scotland and somehow broke off and separated. And it could be, I don't know. But I can tell you one thing, it was a creature, no question whatsoever. All right, here's the story of the giants in Middletown. It says native stories are considered, well, I wrote this, native stories are considered silly, scary, fireside myths. Guess what? Middletown, Connecticut is exactly where the giant fossils were found, and these stories abound. And then there's this about Metacomet Ridge. Many Native Americans, now this is not my writing, it says many Native American stories were in turn incorporated into regional colonial folklore. Truth. The giant stone spirit Hobomok, or Hobomock, a prominent figure in many stories, was credited with diverting the course of the Connecticut River where it suddenly swings east in Middletown, Connecticut. It's right here. After several hundred miles of running due south, Hobomock is also credited with slaying a giant human-eating beaver who lived in a great lake that existed in the Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. And they used to call it Lake Hitchcock, is what they said. And it drained apparently right in my front yard. If they're correct, is what they showed. Now, I did videos on this, on the topography and the history and all this stuff years ago under a different channel called Mud Space Fossils. They may still be up there. There's 10,000 subscribers up there, but I abandoned that a couple of years ago. It just, things happened. It didn't get out of control. Anyway, Hobomock diverted the course of the river. He diverted the course of the Connecticut River. He was punished to sleep forever as the prominent man-like form of the sleeping giant that I just talked about, part of the Metacomet Ridge, southern Connecticut. Exactly. And his feet are right up there. King Philip was a colonist name for Metacomet, and this goes back to, you know, they told him about this. All the Indians told him this was a story that they knew about. And they say there seems to be an element of scientific truth. These tales, for instance, the Great Lake that the giant beaver was said to have inhabited may very well have been the post-glacial Lake Hitchcock, extant 10,000 years ago. The giant beaver may have been an actual prehistoric species, and it was, of bear-sized beaver, now much, 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 much bigger than that. Castroids, oranges, and so forth lived at that time. Those were like ticks to the creatures that I'm talking about. These things that they say were huge, they were literally, and I'm not being silly here, they were literally like ticks, like insects, like the things we see as parasites, maximum, to the type of creatures I'm talking about. They wouldn't even know they were there. They wouldn't have a clue. So, you know, it's so overwhelming that the average person can't think about it. Okay, now I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but these are the two. That's the 1 foot, and there's another foot. But I believe that was a person here, and this was another person here. 1 foot usually goes deep. The other is enough where you can see there was a foot there, because it's your natural instinct to push yourself out of the mud. 1 foot would go deep, the other would come up. It's just the way it's going to work. Now, this is a no-toe, and I could show you the toes on here and everything. Well, let's go look at that real quick. Then I'm going to show you this one. Now, this is a big toe, and I'm almost certain of that, and I'll show you why I'm almost certain of it. And they've been mining that for like 40 years. And they just hit the bottom of it, which is a white pad that sits at the bottom of your toe. You have one too, and it would show up after you're dead if you fossilized in this manner. And one is here, and one is in all the pads which I'll show you. I'll show you a giant toe that has the pad that they finally hit here after like 40, 45 years of digging. Maybe more than that. I don't know. I've been here over 30 years. I live right over in this area here somewhere. And there it is. Now, another thing is people have been asking about microscopes and what is a good microscope. This is a good microscope, cheap. It's less than $100. I mean, cheap for a microscope, and it's called a Celestron. And I got this years ago. This one's and it's still the same one. I just went and looked it up. Apparently they still sell the same one. 5 megapixel, 5 MP. It's a handheld digital microscope pro, 5 megapixel. Now let me show you something about the holder, because the holder stinks. You have to make a change here. Alright, what you should really do for this microscope, they make this little holder. You can go here hold it by hand, but if you want to put it solid in the holder, they make this holder. Very nice. Now, the only problem is, when you get it, there's only the tube that comes up to here. So you really can't do it. So let's say you wanted to look at something high. Hold on, let me get back so you can see what I'm talking about. Alright, let's say you wanted to look at something this tall. You wouldn't be able to do it with what they sent you. Right, but this thing is nice because it goes up like this. I hope you can see that. Yeah, right. And then you can go up and down with this. You adjust it with this in and out, the real fine stuff. And then there's a little up and down light here. See it? And then you can take pictures. Now, there's another type of, this one here is for outside of rocks, the kind of stuff that I'm doing. It works fabulous. Now then you get like this type here. Now I don't even use this anymore at all, hardly, to be honest with you. That's kind of sophisticated. Now it's, not a ton of money, but it's not cheap. I forget what it was. I think it was less than $500, somewhere in that area. And but you have to use these glass slides and it's just, and then you got to hook it to the software, so you're only looking at very, very thin slices or particles of things. It's I was going to do a blood study. I think maybe I just said that, but I'm saying it again. I just don't use it. It's called the Omax. Now that'll do 2,500 power, and then you have these things here. You can twist between the different focuses, powers, and but anyway, it depends. This one here, that's my preference right there. This thing I use not every day, but I use it a lot. Alright, this is the part they say it's trailing off to. Going that way is where the body is, 16 miles down to New Haven, where Yale is, that doesn't seem to be concerned about this. Now, that's the Noto. Now, we're going to see the one that's here. Okay, this is the Noto, and that is the line of blood. And if you look in your own foot, you're going to see there's a vein or an artery that runs straight across there. This skin covers the toes. That's the way a Noto is. And this spot here missing that's because you have the tibia, which sits on a cradle here, and then you have the fibia. The tibia and fibia, that sits on the side here, and it's missing on here too, because this is the foot bones. Now, if you talk about the leg bones, you got one here, and then you got one here. And if on this one here, it would be like something like this here. All right. So now that is a Noto. Now we're going to look at it in a microscope. I'm going to show you what the tissue looks like of the surface. It's like almost, well, it is leather. And then underneath, you can actually see the toenails. But it's built in. It's not something that you could take the shoe off. They're I call them Notos. I coined the phrase Noto because you don't see any toes. But they're in there. Now, there was a whole series that went from like this into actual toes, and then into what we have. But in the meantime, originally there was springs in here. And Tish Egerton found the proof of that. And she has some spectacular specimens that she found, a couple of years back. And I worked with her, and we did the autopsy online and over and over and over, and then we got it down pat. I did videos, nobody took any interest. And she has a very, very active site. I'll show you that as soon as we're done looking at this in a second. So that's what it looks like on its side. Alright, and this is the front. See, originally when I saw it, see, they seamed together. I thought that was some kind of a medallion or something in the front. Here's the funny thing. I was just getting ready to slice this open, and Tish Egerton found the other one. It's already exposed. It's already opened up, and I'll show you that. But you see how they make these seams? I can't account for how life came up with this, but it came up with a pretty interesting thing. Now, as I said, this is the toes. Now we're going to look, I got the microscope going, we're going to look at that in a second. But let me just show you what Tish found. Very, very spectacular, really. Alright, I talked about springs and so forth. Well, they have springs and pins in the springs. And they're torsion springs. They roll up this way, then the next one rolls up, and then they spring back. And I'll show you what it is in a more eroded condition. She has a spectacular site there. These are unknown species. Unknown, well, so is mine, the no-toes. Now they're known, they're all over the world, and they are huge, small, medium, every size. Not only that, I have this here. This is a human footprint, and it was pushed down. This is gray clay. You see this right here? That is red mud bed. Alright, this gray clay sat on top of that red bed, and somebody stepped on this, made this footprint, and I mean it is unbelievably perfect. Pushed it down, the gray clay, through the red bed, and then the black cap sits on top here. That is Triassic rock. Red bed, gray clay, black cap. Triassic. Let's think about this. The gray clay was wet and molded to the guy's foot and pushed through the red bed. That gray clay is below this red bed now. And I show this very clearly in the video. So that means this whole event, at least this and this, were both wet at the same time. Triassic, they 50 million years or something they go for a Triassic. Well, I'm talking about a weekend. And then that on top of this must have come almost immediately, because this literally had the footprints in it. Had the fingerprint, but they're toe prints in toes. I don't know what to say. I got it here. I could show it. I mean, I have shown it many, many times. So, and I put my foot in here. My foot just absolutely fits in here like it belongs in there. Now, they were all different sizes. This was found where Triassic rock is supposed to be Triassic rock. Well, that's Triassic rock. And in addition to that, this is another thing I've shown many times, is a goose head. This was found in the same hole where all this stuff was found. Look, that's a goose head. You see that? Oops, let me turn this side. That is the feathered pattern on a goose's head. You see those feathers? Those are goose feathers coming off the back of his head. And that's his eye, and that's a little beak going off there. And they wrinkle up in the bottom, and that's his neck, and that was the, you can see it if you look carefully. You can see that was where the neck was, that round spot right there. And right up there, that little spot right there, was where the bone goes up and holds his head, and he moves like this, and this is where he eats. That's where the throat goes down in. And when he died laying like this, after the Great Flood, and his neck came down, and he went off like this, and of course it snapped off. But this side just flat, and that's what mud fossils are. Normally half size flat. So I'm saying this is I don't know, The Triassic would have happened on a weekend, as far as I'm concerned. Nobody can tell me that that didn't happen simultaneously. That was wet. That was wet. Case closed. All right, I'm not going to get too much more crazy about this, but this is the heel bone that we talked about, the calcaneus, the heel bone, and that the fibia sits down and snuggles up to it. When it breaks off, you end up with a foot, which is like mine here, which this is broken off, and the same thing with tissues. All right, there's your toes. All right, hers eroded, but there were never any toes showing here. That was all seamed together at one time. This is the same as this is a no toe. However, inside these no toes, mine you can't see it because it is pristine, really. Hers are so eroded that you can see the exact structure inside. Now look at this carefully. You see that strap? That's this strap right here. It's that strap. All right. You see that ball? That's this ball right here. It's the calcaneus. All right. You see this little, there's a stirrup here. Cradle, however you want to call it. And that bone went up from there. That's the tibia. The fibia came around and snuggled up to this bone. And that's gone. These are two torsion springs. And if you understand torsion springs, and I looked at this in extreme detail, and it is engineered. Somebody built this. They knew what they were doing. There's detents and bumpers and springs and latches. And it is a torsion spring. And from here forward were the toes. And think about it here. As this bends up, you see this curve? It bends up. As it bends up, it pulls this in. So it's bending up. Your toes are hitting the hair, and it's twisting this way, bending up, loading this spring. So your first load is here, which pulls this into this cavity. There's a bumper here that bumps up, and it's called a detent, until it hits here, and at that point it draws this back in. There's a spring that comes around to a little tiny hook. There's a hook on each side. I have a very good video showing all this in extreme detail. That is engineered. Somebody built that. Well, I mean, it could be natural, but it sure as hell has got a lot of engineering in it. But, you know, I mean, look at the human body. But what I'm getting at is there's a lot to look at here. Why doesn't it, this is not even in no interest in this. None. You know, I've sent this around to all the universities, and they're just not interested. So I don't know what else to say. So you're going to have to start talking to people about this. If you want it to be known, I mean, I suppose you're just happy with the way things are. Well, that's the way it goes. But I'd like to see somebody else see this. Now, let's look at some microscopic shots. All right, virtually all mud fossil tissue fascia is in this type of style here. You see, let me see if I can focus this in a little better. You see it? The black stuff is the vein blood. The rusty looking reddish stuff is the artery blood, and the white looking stuff is fibers and collagen and so forth. Like, let me show you over here. Let me move this over. This one here, you see that? I'm going to be showing you a toe in a second, and we'll be showing this too, I'm sure. But that is the fibers that you're going to find in grip skin. All right, so let me get a little more on this no toe. Let's look at the toenail. All right, here, down, this is down where the toenail is. You see how it's real blacky, and so here I'm going to come from the skin. Here's the skin. I'm going to keep going off, off, off until I hit where it drops in. See that break right there? I'm going to drop down to it. See? I'm coming back up, coming up, coming up, coming up. Now we're back at the top. All right. This little microscope is very cool, very good purchase. All right, so now we're going to come out. Now we're going to go down, 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 boom. Now we're at the bottom. You see how thick that is? That's the skin. Now we're down where the toenail starts. You see, all of a sudden we get into this black area? That right there's a toenail. Believe it or not, that's just, I don't know what else to say. It is what it is. Now, there's one here I should be able to find two of them. Well, there's one over here. Just the tip of it is showing right there. Let me get it focusing in. That just the tip. You see the blood and all that stuff? You know, that's where you're going to find all of your bloody stuff. You see the blood coming out of that little bitty bloody stuff right there on the edge? That's the edge of the toenail. Now I'm going to move over to another toenail here. Here's one right there. See the same stuff? You see it? See that? Totally different than the other tissue. And here's the last one, way down. This is a little toenail, the baby toenail. Hold on, let me find it here. Right there. Or somewhere right there. There it is. See it? That's a little baby toenail. So they're red-blooded creatures. Red-blooded creatures. Now this is where blood washes itself out. Where blood runs out, it leaves these whitish-looking streams, and you get to this. Now I'm going to move it over until it gets out of that, and you'll see how it changes. Boom. Now you see where it's different. All of a sudden it changes. Now what's happened there is, for some reason, and I don't really fully understand it, but where blood flows, right where it comes out somewhere, that's where you get this white stuff. Like remember that strip that went across the front? I'm going to look at it right here. This is the front going way out towards the toenails. Now I'm going to step way up that. There's a big white strip here. Remember I showed you? I said that runs right across your foot. Same thing. There's that white strip. You get to the other side of the white strip. All right, here's one side, and here's the other side. This side's way up high. See all the bloody stuff goes on there? And that separates. Watch, I'm going to go down with it. You'll see how high this is. All right, I'm up at the top. I'm going to go down, 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 and now I'm down to the bottom. You see it? Now I'm going to come back up the top. Boom, up, 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 up. No, I went down. I'm at the top right now. And I'm going to go down, 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 down. Nope. No, 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 that didn't work. Alright, so there's not much of a difference actually between the top of that, right here where you see all the bloody nasty stuff, and then we come the other direction and we go down to the white stuff. So you see there is some difference, but look at how you can see all the biology here. I mean, it's not hard to tell what's going on. Let's see, what do we got here? Here's another spot where there's a lot of blood. But when you get a microscope like this, you look around for the anomalies. Look for things that don't make sense to you. Now look at this black stuff. You see this here? That is bone black. If you remember, I showed a bone that had leaked oil out of it. I probably should show it again, but this is what it is. This is oil leaking from the bone that is in the back of this no-toe. And here's another spot I think that's leaking oil, or should at some point. Well, no, it's not. Over here, though, you see, there's a black spot right there. They're leaking oil out of the bones. Bones have ferritin inside of it, and for some reason it turns into hydrocarbons and oils, and they're normally protected by membranes, but you know the salts apparently eat through them and cause them to create hydrocarbons. So anyway, that's that for now. Alright, now I think I already told you about Hobomock, who was the giant who lived in Middletown. Now, I want to show you this. This is approximately the size of his foot, somewhere right around there. Now, you see all this stuff laying around here? That's the decay of the giant standing up. All the stuff that was around him had to go somewhere. And that's why you don't see a lot of property development in this area, because of a lot of hills and chunky things laying around like this and like these feet. Now, if you go from here, remember the size. Now, remember the story about Hobomock pushing his foot into the Connecticut River. Look at this. Here's the Connecticut River right here. Here's his foot. And it went right here before, and he pushed it out this way. So they understand that, and that was the story. It was a story. It's nothing I made up. Now, again, right here, this is what they were mining. Right here is the big toe. That's all it is one big toe. There's some blood, and that is the white pad at the bottom of the big toe. That is a big toe, and I've been watching this for like 35 years. There's the foot. It comes all the way around here, and that's the big toe. And now I'm going to show you a big toe that is in one of my mud fossils, and you can see the pad that I just showed you will be there. All right, I'm going to show you how much a difference it makes dry and wet. This is the vein, and this is the artery side. The vein side turns black. I'll show you in a second. But I'm going to wet this, and then you'll see. First of all, you see the black? Hold on, probably easier to move the camera. Oh, here. You see that black right there? That's the vein side. That's black blood. And this stuff is the wrinkly side of your toe, the scuzzy little wrinkly stuff that goes against your toe. The other side, let me move this back. The other side is the callus. You see that? That's the guy's callus right there. I'm not kidding you. That's the guy's callus. And it's all loaded with transition metals. Now, I'm going to show you the difference between wet and dry. And that right there is his finger, his toenail. Right there. That's a toenail. Now, you see the vein and artery there? Let me get this out of the way. That's from Greg. I got to look at that a little closer. Now, this here is the vein and artery. You see the vein and artery. Now, I'm going to wet it, and then we'll take a look at it in a minute when it sinks in. All right, what I want you to look at here is, of course, remember I told you the vein. And the vein is only a small little spot in the center that bubbled out. Now, look at this right here. You see this? You see that? You see that? That is a strap. That is the fabric that wraps these bones. I mean, bones. Each bone comes out all wrapped up in its own little fabric, just like this. I've shown this a number of times, and this, you see the same thing here. You see these lines? You see that? That's fabric. And it wraps around and it surrounds these bones with that membrane of fabric. It's they're on every one of them, every single one of them. There's no question whatsoever what it is. I know exactly what it is. Now, as you come around here, this is, this side here is the side that goes up against your toe. You know how you get like one side of the skin on your big toe is sort of, you know, floppy. You know what I mean. It lays up against the other side of your toe. It's a squishy sort of skin. And the other side is where you have your callus, if you have calluses, and I do. I have one that's a monster, and I have to keep it under control. This guy didn't have anything to help him out, apparently, because this thing is unbelievable. You see that? That whole thing is the callus. All this whole thing is the guy's callus. Now, remember I told you about the white dot? There it is right there. That's at the bottom of the toe. I'm not kidding you. I've been watching this thing excavate, and I'm thinking, are they going to hit that thing? And sure enough, they hit it. Look, you see, watch. I turn this upside down. Boom. Okay. You got that big white spot right back here. Okay. Now, let's look where it is on the Google Earth. Okay, now don't forget, this foot, there would be another foot here, so the big toe is facing this big toe. And the callus would be on the outside, as it always is, and the scuzzy looking scruffy part that is floppy skin is in the inside, facing the inside toes. So that white spot, which we saw on the bottom here, is on the inside of the big toe. All right, so let's see where it is on this one. Swish in here real close. And there it is. It's on the inside of the big toe. They mined this whole area. Excuse me. And now guess what else? Not only is that white spot there, and they had to stop mining here. Here's the red spot where the blood is. The red blood comes here, coming down the side. That white spot is back here. This is the tip of the toe here. You see it? They got into the fleshy part of the front of the foot. They stopped mining. They gave up. They moved out because they took all of what this big toe had to offer. And that was it. For many years they mined that. All right, let's see. This is the foot. Now, it's 16 miles to New Haven. And we're going to go with a ruler here. And this is 2.46 miles. So it's 2.4 miles, let's say. From here is the foot. Going to New Haven, the thing dropped this way. It's 16 miles down. Now, you would be because it slopes up from his body, because this, they said, it tapers down to these hanging cliffs, which are the feet. So it goes up to his upper extremities, 16 miles away. And then I imagine the head is like in the ocean area, because that's where the inlet is down there. The water shows up down there in New Haven. So that's what I would say. The head went into the ocean somewhere, that area. And because 16 miles, this is 2.5 miles almost. And he's 16 miles from here to New Haven. He's still going to be longer than that, right? 16 miles. I'll have to do some calculating. No, I tell you what, you do the calculating. Who's going to figure this out? 2.5 miles is the foot. Where should the shoulders and head be? How far away?